In 1992, another Christmas Carol movie hit the big screen. Yep, a new theatrical movie involving Charles Dickens' tale about Christmas's biggest humbug, Ebenezer Scrooge, learning the true meaning of Christmas via ghosts of the past, present and future. But what separates this version of A Christmas Carol from the rest is that this one has Muppets. Yep, lots and lots of Muppets, with the likes of Kermit the Frog, Miss Piggy, Gonzo and the rest of the gang. This heartwarming Christmas classic is a fan favourite for those who grew up watching it, as well as new viewers. But what makes the Muppets' take on A Christmas Carol extra special is Michael frickin' Caine. I swear this guy was born to play Ebenezer Scrooge. And I don't say this lightly, but he is without a doubt my favourite on-screen version of Scrooge, and having him on board just completes the movie. So this is actually the first Muppet-related episode that I've ever made. I seriously can't believe that I haven't made a Muppet-related episode yet. That's a crime against humanity. That's a crime against Muppanity. You know, as in humanity and Muppets, Muppanity. Yeah, I just totally made that up. But that is just how insane my lack of Muppet episodes is. So today we are going to fix this up by looking into 10 things that you didn't know about the Muppets Christmas Carol. You know, the Muppet movie that came out between Muppets Pulp Fiction and Muppets Saving Private Ryan. Okay, that's a joke. But the countdown isn't a joke, so let's check it out. Number 10. The Muppets Christmas Carol was originally going to be a TV special. There were 3 theatrical Muppet movies that came out before The Muppet Christmas Carol. Those being The Muppet Movie in 1979, The Great Muppet Caper in 1981, and The Muppets Take Manhattan in 1984. However, in 1990, Muppet creator, performer, and all-round general creative genius legend Jim Henson had sadly passed away. So there wasn't any plans at that time to make any more Muppet movies. However, a talent agent contacted Jim Henson's son, Brian Henson, about the possibility of making a Muppet version of the Charles Dickens classic A Christmas Carol. And the idea was sold to ABC, with the intention of the feature to be a made-for-TV special. After all, there had been several feature-length Muppet TV specials in the past, such as A Muppet Family Christmas, which came out a few years earlier in 1987. So it seemed that the Muppet Christmas Carol was going to be a magical TV event unlike any other. That is until Disney came along and said, yep, I would like a slice of that pie actually. Number 9. Then Disney took over. The script for the Muppet Christmas Carol was being written by Jerry Joel, who also wrote for The Muppet Show and other Muppet movies. It was decided early on to have the story narrated by Charles Dickens, who should be played by Gonzo, just purely on the account that he's the character that people would least expect to play Dickens. It was also decided to have the Muppets play the 3 ghosts. Scooter was going to be the ghost of Christmas past, Miss Piggy was going to be the ghost of Christmas present, and Gonzo was going to be the ghost of things to come. Before he was cast as Charles Dickens, then the production was thinking about Animal for the role. However, in the final film, new Muppets were designed to play the ghosts. In fact, I think the Muppet that was used for the Ghost of Christmas Past is the same puppet that was used to play Death in Jim Henson's Storyteller TV show. The completed script was handed to ABC for approval, but Disney got wind of the script and saw great potential for the project to be a theatrical movie, and so the company bought the rights to the script, and The Muppet Christmas Carol was no longer a made-for-TV affair, but a cinematic Muppet extravaganza. And of course, jump 12 years later to 2004, and Disney ended up buying the Muppet brand. They buy everything. Number 8. Directorial debut. Jim Henson's son, Brian Henson, became the Muppet Christmas Carol's director. Brian had previously been a Muppet performer for The Great Muppet Caper and The Muppets Take Manhattan, as well as being a puppeteer for Jack Pumpkinhead in Return to Oz and providing the voice of Hoggle in Labyrinth. He also did puppetry work on movies such as Santa Claus the Movie, Little Shop of Horrors, Labyrinth, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, and The Witches. So it seemed logical that his next step would be director for the Muppet brand, following in his father's footsteps. So it seems that from here Brian Henson's career path had been set, and that from here on he was going to direct magical movies of top quality, and oh dear. Well, no one's perfect. But to be fair, his directional work for the Muppet Christmas Carol is great. The movie looks rich and cinematic, and has that distinct Muppet flair about it. Maybe raunchy comedies just aren't his strongest attributes. Number 7. Casting possibilities. So the production had to find the right actor to play Scrooge, someone who was the right age who could be both cold and tragic, as well as have warmth and generate sympathy. Actors who were considered include George Carlin, Ron Moody, and David Warner, all of whom actually would have been pretty awesome. However, Brian Henson had his eye on Michael Caine and offered him the role. The funny thing about Caine's casting is he said that he'll do it as long as he can act as though he's performing for the Royal Shakespeare Company. He didn't want his performance to be silly or over the top, but completely realistic. And you can see that in his performance. He is so serious. You wouldn't think that he's surrounded by Muppets. He plays the part like a serious, tragic character, which actually makes a great contrast to the wacky Muppet shenanigans that take place in the movie. Often in Muppet movies, when they have famous guest stars, they usually act over the top, like they're thinking, oh, I'm in a Muppet movie, and I'm gonna act all wacky and weird because Muppets. But not Michael Caine. He didn't let the fact that his co-stars were Muppets stop him from acting like a thespian actor. More power to him. Number 6. Filming location. The Muppet Christmas Carol was filmed on sound stages in Shepperton Studios in England. The sets that were used were quite elaborate, as they had to be built above ground, in order to have the Muppeteers down below performing the Muppet scenes. This was quite dangerous for Michael Caine, along with his other human co-stars, as he would have to walk on narrow planks between the Muppets and their performers, which meant that one false move or slip could have led to disaster, including potential serious injury. So I guess you could say that this is literally a movie where Michael Caine would have had to have watched his step and tread carefully. In fact, it's a miracle that he was able to deliver such a powerful performance, most of which was done walking on narrow planks. Number 5. A scene that often gets cut for pacing. There is a haunting musical number featured in the Muppets Christmas Carol, called When Love Is Gone, when Ebenezer Scrooge visits the past and witnesses his tragic breakup with his true love, Belle. The song is actually a very important part of the movie, as it's what elevates Scrooge from being an angry bitter man and reaches out to his more human side. Michael Caine said that the musical number is one of his favourite scenes from the movie for that very reason. The song by design is all about character growth and development. And yes, Michael Caine did indeed really get into the studio and lend his voice for the song, proving that not only can he act, but he also sings too. However, when the Muppets Christmas Carol was released theatrically, it was decided to remove the song, as it was felt that it may be a little too boring for kids without enough Muppet action taking place. Much to the dismay of Brian Henson, who thought the song number was important to the story. However, when released on home media like Laserdisc and VHS, the song was put back in the film. Now I'm of two minds of this song, because yeah, as a kid I found it slow and boring, and it made the movie drag a little, as well as it felt a little bit too sad. I mean, what's with all this emotional sad stuff? I'm here to see the Muppets. But as an adult, I love the sequence. It's so powerful and tragic, and gives us an insight into why Scrooge is the way that he is. So I guess the musical number is kind of a catch-22. It should be in there, but at the same time it shouldn't be there. So, I guess it depends on what you've gone to watch the movie for. Whether you're watching it to get some of that good old Muppet madness, or to watch a magical Christmas movie, will depend on if you like the song When Love Is Gone or not. Number 4. Confusion over a missing character. So now we've talked about the movie's saddest song, When Love Is Gone, now it's time to talk about the Muppets Christmas Carol's happiest song, When Love Is Found, where we see that Scrooge has now learned the errors of his ways and has a heart full of Christmas joy, with the intention to share that joy with his fellow man and Muppets. However, one thing in particular about this musical number has left many fans scratching their heads. That's the fact that the sequence features Scrooge's nephew Fred, but his wife Clara is nowhere in sight. Director Jim Henson has said that he has been asked over and over again by fans just where on earth is Clara in that last scene, and if she ended up leaving Fred, as if suggesting that there may have been a sequel called The Muppets Divorce Courts. Well, the truth is a lot more simple than that. When the sequence was being filmed, Clara actress Robin Weaver simply wasn't available. The production probably felt that the movie's audience wouldn't notice her absence, but over the years more and more fans have noticed the character's non-involvement in the scene and want to know why.
It didn't really register with me at the time, but yeah, now that I know she's not there, it kind of feels weird not having her there.
Number 3, Jim Henson gave his approval in a dream. Muppeteer Stephen Whitmire had the daunting task of bringing Kermit to life for the Muppets Christmas Carol. Whitmire had already done Muppet work for The Muppet Show and previous Muppet movies, but now he was bringing to life the creation of his former boss Jim Henson, as Kermit had not been seen on the big screen since the passing of Jim, who was famously well known for performing Kermit. However, Whitmire said that his fears were put at ease, where the night before filming he had a dream that he saw Jim Henson in a gleaming white hotel lobby, where Whitmire spoke to Jim about his worries in performing Kermit the Frog, where Jim put his 2 index fingers under his chin and then said, "It'll pass," of which when Jim was alive were words of reassurance that he would use. The dream ended with Henson saying that he had to go now before running off. Whitmire woke up feeling more at ease and confident in playing Kermit.
So, did Jim Henson give his blessings from beyond the grave? Or was this Whitmire's own mind subconsciously working to put him at ease? Either way, interesting story.
Number 2, promoting the Muppets Christmas Carol. I can only imagine that when an early teaser trailer was put together to promote the Muppets Christmas Carol, that none of the movie's music was ready to use, as it has a really bizarre choice in music, as the trailer features the Beetlejuice theme that was composed by Danny Elfman.
Treat to Mr. Scrooge, even though he is odious, stingy, and badly dressed. Humbug.
Now this wasn't a completely rare phenomenon, as several supernatural comedies of the late 80s and early 90s would recycle the Beetlejuice theme for their early trailers. It's just weird hearing it for a Muppet movie. The movie poster was drawn up by movie poster design legend Drew Struzan, whom had previously designed posters for Indiana Jones and Back to the Future, as well as other Muppet movies. I love his poster for the Muppet Christmas Carol, as we can clearly see it's a Muppet movie, but it also looks very dark and haunting. And let's be honest, how many movie posters can you say look dark and haunting that feature Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy? I just love its colours and its icy cold vibes. This is one of those posters that I could just stare at for hours. This alternative poster features what looks like a promotional picture of the Muppets on the set. It's okay, but not as memorable as the Drew Struzan poster, and the lack of Michael Caine makes it lose the human element of the story, and has it looking more like a Christmas special exclusively starring Muppets. In modern years, home media releases have given the movie different covers to make the movie look more festive and Christmassy. But to me, the original dark haunting cover is the best. Number 1, defeated by Kevin McAllister. The Muppets Christmas Carol was released just in time for Christmas on December the 11th, 1992. It was dedicated to the loving memory of Jim Henson and fellow Muppeteer Richard Hunt. And Disney had high hopes that this Muppet movie would be a festive high earner in the box office. However, the Muppet Christmas Carol would only go on to make $27.2 million on a $12 million budget. So although the movie wasn't a flop, it still wasn't a knockout success that Disney hoped it would be. This is mainly because Home Alone 2 Lost in New York had just come out a few weeks prior, and was absolutely devouring the festive box office, bringing in a staggering $359 million. Merry Christmas indeed, you filthy animal. Not only that, but Disney's very own Aladdin was also still in theaters at that time, which was also an insane success, taking in $504 million at the box office. So, let me get this right, the Muppet Christmas Carol and Home Alone 2 and Aladdin all came out in the same time in 1992. Wow, what a time to be alive. So it seemed that the Muppet Christmas Carol just couldn't compete with the success of Home Alone 2 and Aladdin. However, the movie got great reviews from critics, with many praising it to be a touching Muppet experience. It has since become a fan favourite. There is just something so magical and innocent and pure about Muppets Christmas Carol. It's just so warm-hearted and has so much joy to offer, and a lot of that joy comes from Michael Caine himself. Caine would go on to say that his role of Ebenezer Scrooge in Muppets Christmas Carol is one of his favourite roles that he has played. So if you want to go on a magical journey to learn the true meaning of Christmas, there is no better movie than the Muppets Christmas Carol.
I cannot praise this movie enough. Every time I watch it, I can feel my 8-year-old self just loving every second of it. So it's definitely a film for you if you want to go on that good old trip down memory lane. Or if you want a fun, innocent Christmas movie to show to small children. Anyway, I'm Minty, and I just feel all warm and gooey after talking about Muppets Christmas Carol. See ya! So it seems that from here, Brian Henson's careers. That's when you have beer on a pier.